Good morning, everybody. This has sort of become a personal quest and a personal mission to really understand what happened to me initially when I went on this protocol 8 years ago. At that time, I honest to gosh, I didn't know what a calorie is. And I just want to give you one quick thing that most people don't understand, okay? And I'm not doing this to make you feel bad because I was in the same place. But how many of you, and I know you can't answer, but how many of you actually understand what a calorie is, okay? See, every diet that's out there, and I'm writing a book which is almost done, shameless plug for me, called Why Diets Are Failing Us, and I go through this stuff in much greater detail than I'm going to do this morning. But basically I start with the first premise that every diet and every, you know, whether it's Jenny Craig, whether it's Weight Watchers, I don't care what it is really around this whole concept of counting calories. Well, first of all, in my lectures, hundreds of them, when I ask the audience, you know, please give me the definition of a calorie, I've had one person in the last 6 months that actually came close to the definition. So let me give you the definition of a calorie, and this is a good segue to set up what I'm going to share with you. A calorie is simply the amount of heat it takes to raise 1 gram of water 1 degree centigrade. Let me repeat that. A calorie is the amount of heat it takes to raise 1 gram of water 1 degree centigrade. That's it. And although many people are running around counting calories, the one person or entity that cannot count calories is your body, okay? So I want you to get that concept. Here, everybody's, you know, concentrating on calories, and yet a calorie is something. See, there's no calories in a cookie. There's no calories in a ham sandwich. There's no calories in a hamburger. As far as your body's concerned, the only thing your body looks to is nutrition. I want everyone to get this concept. I've spoken in front of lots of doctors and nutritionists and dietitians and stuff, and what I say is contrary to everything that they've, you know, kind of be teaching people, but it doesn't matter. The truth is the truth. I mean, you know, gravity works every single time, and that's kind of how this works. So if you understand that a calorie means nothing to your body, zero, it's simply a measurement, okay? And if you understand that the only thing your body can read is nutrition that it can absorb, that's called efficaciousness or efficacious, meaning simply that you absorb. They talk about that also with prescription drugs and everything. It's always about absorption. Since we all suffer from a disease called auto-intoxication. Now, that's not because, you know, I had too many glasses of wine last night. That's actually caused by the body absorbing these chemicals that are in our world, and those chemicals cut down on they're like a filter. They cut down on the body's ability to absorb the nutrients. The reason I'm sharing with you guys this morning is because it doesn't do me any good to explain the shakes, et cetera, if you don't understand the pathway down which the nutritionals in here are going to travel. The thing that makes Isagenix unique is that it is the world's first nutritional cleanse. I'm sure a lot of you get this. Is it a colon cleanse? Is it a liver cleanse? I've done the master cleanse. But there's never been a nutritional cleanse. Because the one thing you have to understand, in order to make the body do what it needs to do, which in essence is fasting, okay, you must lower calories. But the problem is, if you try to do this with food or you go on just a water diet, you actually put the body into something called catabolic metabolism. What's that mean? Well, basically, the body for fuel will eat muscle. It'll actually use up your muscle. What you want to be in is an anabolic state, which means you're burning fat and you're not sacrificing muscle. So when you go on a conventional diet and you lower the calories, you are automatically putting the body in catabolic metabolism. That's why, for example, when people go on something like the Atkins diet and they just eat protein, they actually are causing the body to convert muscles into carbohydrates because the brain needs carbohydrates. So although people will lose weight, they're miserable because their brain is so starved from what it needs in order to function. So with that said, because I don't have enough time to go into it all, I'm just giving you kind of a flyby here. Let's start down the path of the products themselves, okay? Let's start first with the most important thing that separates Isagenix from anything else on the planet, and that are the trace minerals. Trace. You've all heard of essential minerals, iron, magnesium, calcium. But most of you are completely, including myself, I was until John Anderson taught me this, about trace minerals. What are trace minerals? Well, they're things like molybdenum. and boron and selenium, these tiny, tiny little minerals that are absolutely the most critical nutrient that you can give to the human body. They're responsible for speeding up enzyme reactions. They do things like they detox you. They're very, very powerful antioxidants, because something else people don't understand. When you go on a cleanse, part of what happens is you create a whole bunch of free radicals as the body begins to purge itself of all the bad stuff. So you have to have something that is very, very high antioxidant to remove or to deal with these free radicals. So in each product that John Anderson puts together, there are 70 of these trace minerals. Now, you could go down to a health food store and you could buy a trace mineral supplement, and you'd find maybe 20, 25 of these trace minerals. Well, John put 70 in here because, again, he wanted to make this like no other product in the world. He wanted to create what? Nutritional density. Forget the calories. For example, do you understand when you take a snack, which is 30 calories, it's the equivalent of a whole meal? It's got the right balance of carbs and fats and protein. Now, this is something that I learned this 2 weeks ago. We all suffer, starting at about age 25, from a disease called sarcopenia. What's sarcopenia? Sarcopenia is the loss of lean muscle mass. Between 25 and 70, we lose as human beings 40% of our lean muscle mass, and we gain 100% of fat. That's going on every day. And see, the thing is, protein the body cannot store. It stores carbs and fats, but not protein. The reason it's so critical to have a shake every single morning is you must give the body protein, okay? Now, you could say, well, I can eat a hamburger, or I can have chicken, or I can... No, it's not the same. These special shakes from New Zealand, and why did John go to New Zealand? Why did we go there? Because in New Zealand, they use no herbicides, no pesticides, no growth hormones, and no antibiotics. Well, they don't use antibiotics because the cows only eat grass. They don't eat corn. When you feed a cow corn, you actually mess up their immune system, and the reason they have to shoot these cows with antibiotics is because the cows are sick. So they give them antibiotics to counter that, and then we're ingesting the antibiotics, which are making us antibiotic resistant, and that's why you're seeing all these flus and all this kind of stuff, happening. Well, the New Zealand cows aren't treated with any of that. As a matter of fact, those cows are only milked 10 months a year. I know it sounds crazy. They're actually happy cows. And they believe that part of that, because the cows are not stressed out by being over-milked and given drugs, actually produce a 25% higher amino acid profile, which I'll talk about in 1 second here, than any other protein on planet Earth. Do you know that we've tested this protein from New Zealand, and it is as close to mother's breast milk as anything else? See, when you drink normal cow's milk, the proportions in there don't mimic mother's breast milk the way this whey protein does from New Zealand. So number one, we're starting with something that is just incredibly this condensed nutrition to start out with. And then John added 70 trace minerals to it. Then he added enzymes. See, there aren't naturally occurring enzymes in whey protein. Why would we add the enzymes? Well, because one of the ones we add is lactase, because there are a lot of people that are lactose intolerant. And see, remember, back to absorption. So if you can't break the protein down fine enough, and the body can't absorb it, as a matter of fact, people throw up or they get bloated stomachs, etc. So by adding the lactase, we're able to overcome even those people that have, that are lactose intolerant, and it absorbs it at a much higher level. Now, let's go into the actual shake itself. The most important thing in that shake, the most important thing are the amino acids. In particular, they're called branch chain amino acids, and there's a couple of them that are absolutely critical and that really separate Isogenics from anybody else. See, when you go down to the health food store or to Gold's Gym and you buy a protein, for the most part it's going to be what's called denatured. What does that mean? Well, that means that in America we've used a process called pasteurization, which raises the temperature to the point where you actually begin to destroy the amino acids. As a matter of fact, a lot of athletes will drink a shake and they'll add synthetic amino acids to the shake because there's no amino acids left because they've been destroyed in the pasteurization process. In New Zealand, they don't use pasteurization the way we do here. They use an ultra-fine filtering process with no heat, and guess what? Then they preserve the amino acids. Now, why is that so important? Well, one amino acid in particular that really stands out is something called cysteine. That's Cysteine. You can actually Google it. Well, you must have cysteine in the human body in order to make the most powerful antioxidant and detox agent called glutathione. Now, why is that so important? Because glutathione opens the first two pathways to detoxification. Pathway number one is what? The glutathione goes in and it takes the impurity or the toxin and it breaks it down. It actually, imagine taking a glass and dropping it on the floor and it shatters into all these pieces. That's the first pathway in detox. The second pathway that happens is the glutathione. Once it helps to break the toxin down, it then brings into play other amino acids in the whey protein shake, and it does what's called conjugation. It basically, in layman's terms, it puts those broken pieces back together. Now, they don't fit back together the way they were. They're all fragmented, but it makes those pieces then water soluble. So then what? We pass it out either through the urine or out through the colon. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the most important product in this whole cleanse is the shake. As a matter of fact, that's why we call it pre-cleanse days, because you're actually starting the body in the process of cleansing on your first two shake days. That's why the shake is so critical. The other thing, of course, is by putting the whey protein in your body every day. Like if you have, elderly parents or grandparents, et cetera, that are feeble, that, are even walking with walkers, it's because they've lost their lean muscle mass. It has nothing to do with their brain. It's they become weak because they don't have any lean muscle mass. So that shake is so doggone critical in the morning. Now, one other thing about the shake also that's incredible, it contains two different kinds of protein. It contains whey protein, and it contains what's called casein protein. Now, why is that important? Well, the whey protein is extremely fast-acting. When you drink the shake, the whey protein goes into the muscle and creates something called protein synthesis. That sounds like a big word, but it's really simple. It simply enables the body to make lean muscle mass. So the whey protein goes in and you're building muscle right away. The second part of it is the casein protein is much more slowly released. It's like a time release. So you're continuing to build muscle over a much longer period of time. See, if people just understood that if they just would have one shake in the morning every single day, they could minimize the effects of sarcopenia. But even it's not too late. Even if you have, people that are, in their 70s or 80s, if you started giving them shakes, it would start to reverse the process of them losing the lean muscle mass, sometimes in as little as a month. And you absolutely could improve the quality of their life. Because I get this question all the time, well, do I have to stay on this for the rest of my life? No, guess what? You get to make a choice every morning. It's a privilege that you get to take this stuff every day because it is life-changing if you understand what it's doing for you in your body. So those are just two, so if you get it about the cysteine and the glutathione and get this about the whey and the casein protein, then, that's a good starting point. Now let me shift gears and I want to go to the cleanse. Most people have heard of aloe vera, and they've maybe used it for sunburns, although it's been taken for centuries internally. But if you go down to a health food store, you'll see on the label it will say whole leaf, W-H-O-L-E, whole leaf aloe vera. Well, that sounds good, but it's really not, because the leaf, and the reason they do that is it's so much cheaper. They just take the plant and they grind it all up, and you get part of the leaf and part of the inside of the aloe. But it's the inner heart gel of the aloe plant is really where the powerful things happen. Now, what happens in the isogenics process, we take the aloe plant, we open it up, and we just take the inner heart gel. Now, again, why is that so important? Because one of the things that happens in processing of the whole leaf is you destroy something in the aloe called polysaccharides, okay? Polysaccharides are unbelievable. They boost the immune system. They also assist in those first two pathways to detox. They're very, very powerful antioxidants, okay? Now, because we don't process the plant the same way, the polysaccharides are intact. And what happens when you introduce the leaf actually has an enzyme in it that actually destroys polysaccharides. So it's insane. The way that they're processing this to save money, they're in essence destroying the very thing in the aloe that you want. In particular, I just want you to understand one of these polysaccharides. It's called acemannan, A-C-E-M-A-N-N-A-N. That particular polysaccharide is responsible for greatly increasing our immune system, greatly increasing the detox process, and it's a very, very powerful antioxidant. Remember I said when you're cleansing, you're creating free radicals. Now, here's another part of this. When you're doing the when you're taking the aloe, the other thing that's happening in there is that we've added in particular one of the trace minerals called selenium. What does selenium do? Selenium is a like a catalyst, like a booster, like a turbocharger that absolutely positively makes the rest of the ingredients in the cleanse and in the shake work better. So it's kind of like a boost to that. So you want that acemannan to be in there to help the body to detox, but also this big antioxidant component as well as boosting the immune system. So that, as far as the cleanse go, that's one of the most important things. And, of course, then you have the 70 trace minerals. Now, I know you get this when people say, oh, my gosh, I can't go without eating, for 2 days if they're doing, deep cleansing. Well, you're not. You're not going without eating. But, again, back to this whole concept, see, they're focusing on calories. Calories don't mean anything. Only thing that matters to your body is how much nutrition and how can we absorb it. Well, watch what's happening. By cleansing your body, what are you doing? You're opening those pathways and allowing what? Much higher absorption, much higher efficaciousness. I mean, do you realize when you drink 4 ounces of the cleanse, it's equivalent to having probably a few thousand calories of food? And look, I've worked with people that weigh 600 pounds, and they're not hungry. The hunger is in their brain because they're trying to calculate in their brain calories. But it has nothing to do with calories. It only has to do with nutrition, okay? Now, the last 2 things I want to talk about briefly are the snacks. Understand, and I should have said this about the shake. This is one other huge concept I want everyone to get. But the snack and the shake are very, very similar. They're both based on the Zone diet. You can go and Google that. The Zone diet is considered the nutritional standard now in the world for eating food. It's based on what? 40% carbohydrates, 30% protein, and 30% fats. There are people who look at the shake and go, oh my gosh, there's way too much carbohydrates in there. No, the body must have carbohydrates, and we actually have 2 different kinds in the shake in particular. The first one, the sweetener, comes from organic beets, okay? And what happens is that goes in the body, and it goes in the liver, and the liver converts that into something called glycogen, which is stored sugar. The other thing that we add, in just a tiny amount, is from honey. Because you've got 2 different kinds. You have glucose, which is readily used, and then you have the stored sugar, which is called glycogen. Well, you have to have them both, but there's not enough in there to cause what's called an insulin spike, and if you have an insulin spike, you'd never burn fat. So, again, the mechanics of how this is put together is just so critical that you have both the glycogen and you have the glucose. The glucose is used much more readily. The glycogen is stored energy that we begin to release, as we call on our energy stores, over the course of the day. So the snack is, first of all, I don't even use the word snack. I call them mini meals, because that's what it is. Despite the fact it's only 30 calories, you've got 70 trace minerals. You have the 40-30-30, 40% protein, 30% fat, 30% carbohydrates. So it really is the perfect balance, okay? So the snacks are not optional. It's something that you want to also take. It also has something in there called chromium picolate, which helps to balance blood sugar so you don't get those big drops in the afternoon. Then the last thing is the Accelerator. Now, again, I wish we'd call it something else because the only thing it stimulates in the body, it does create something called thermogenesis, which if you sit in a cold bathtub of water, your body will absolutely start to burn fat to try to keep you warm. But it has green tea, and it's got some other things in there, cleansing herbs that really facilitate the body in terms of burning fat. So it helps to speed up the process of burning the white fat in the body. So again, you can see that this is a system. It's a system. It's not individual supplements like taking vitamin A or B or C or, not that those things are bad. It's just that this is a technology that is put together so then the other part, which I don't have time to go into today, is it allows the body, like Kirk says, to cleanse itself. Isogenics is not a cleanse. It doesn't cleanse you. It is only the body, by supplying it with this massive, massive density of nutrition, given at specific intervals over a specific period of time, that's what makes it so unique. So really, that's, I know that's an awful lot to absorb, and believe me, I could go much deeper, but hopefully that gives you just a thumbnail sketch of, what I was sharing last night.